Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Sven, the CEO of Sastrify. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Please tell us, what is Sastrify?
So Sastrify is a software as a service procurement platform. We basically make sure our clients buy the right software at the right price, and we also optimize their current SaaS spend. So really take care of the whole life cycle of software within a company.
So what did you say is the biggest problem that you solve?
So the biggest problem that we solve is over the last couple of years, obviously, all of us that are somewhat in SaaS have seen the sprawl of SaaS tools across organizations. So there's just thousands and thousands of SaaS tools out there. So what we help clients is basically make sure that they always buy what they need at the fair price, but also don't overspend on SaaS. But we also help them make the right decisions and choices and have confidence in their decisions. That's really what we focus on. So from the moment you want to buy something to the moment you actually buy it to the cleaning up what you already have, that's pretty much our turf.
Mm-hmm. And what are your top 3 features?
I would say also according to that basically SaaS lifecycle, the first important one is that if you're looking for a software application, you can actually go on the Sastrify platform. Anybody in the company can do that and look for, hey, I need something in project management. And what Sastrify will tell you is what's already within your company, so you don't have to buy it twice. So if it says, hey, there's already an Asana license and Greg is responsible for it, you can just go to Greg instead of buying it yourself. The second important piece is actually that we help them build out the procurement process for software. So you can define which steps the software need to go through, like legal approval, IT security approval, all those kind of steps. And we always feed in our data, which is then the third important feature, with benchmarks. So we basically make sure, hey, this is what you should buy for your Salesforce license. This is what you should pay for your Asana license, and then really feed that into the process. So
you're selling mostly to enterprise clients?
Yeah, it's more mid-market. So ideally, we can start as low as 100 people. That's when we start making sense. Sweet spot, I would say 500 to 10,000.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what is the pricing for Sastrify?
So we price, first of all, the cool part about our pricing is that we guarantee to save our customers more money than we cost.
Nice. So the SaaS calculator, I saw it.
Exactly, yeah. So you can even go on the website and just put in your numbers. That's also why we need about, I would say, you need to spend about $20,000, $30,000 or euros per month on SaaS so that we make sense. Okay. Which is typically a company that has about 100 employees. That's typically how we came up with that. And then we basically price that depending on your total spend, somewhere between 30, and then the largest clients go into the 6 figures, but typically we start around 30,000 euros per year. But again, we save much more than that for our clients.
And what is the pricing for your service? So I saw that you are also SaaS, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually so it's a typical SaaS pricing starting at around 30K per year, and then going up to 6 figures typically.
And what are your current integrations?
So for us, the 2 most important ones are any kind of ERP. So the NetSuites of this world, QuickBooks, Xero, everything in that direction. Because obviously that's where we get the data from in terms of, hey, this is the SaaS you're currently paying for. And then the other part is actually the whole SSO part. So the Oktas, the Google logins to figure out which SaaS is being used in the application in the company, no matter if it's been paid for or not.
And can you share with us some interesting story, a successful use case that a company that used Sastrify and was happy with it?
Yeah, so there's lots of them. So that's a good part.
But maybe you can share an interesting one, or
No, we have also. We've been very lucky to have some early believers on the client side as well, and I think by now any large European tech company has at least talked to us, which is good, and many of them work with us as well. And now we're also very active in the US. I think the most interesting cases for us is really when we find a lot of software at the beginning. So one of our first clients that we looked at had over 2,000 different software contracts within the company. So obviously cleaning that up was a pretty intense task. But then again, we also have customers where we're now like 40 times savings within a year of what they paid us, which is good for them, not so good for us, but it really shows the impact we can have. So it's really that on single contracts, sometimes with Sastrify you save like 200,000-300,000 euros within like 15 minutes of work.
But on the other side, how does it work? So you go to big companies and negotiate the price to a lower fee, or how does it work?
Yeah, so typically we work with either together with the procurement team or besides the procurement team. So basically how that works is we either supply only the data and the workflows, and they do the negotiations themselves. Or if they don't have any procurement professionals in-house, we also have an own procurement team in place. And that procurement team then can lead negotiations and basically make sure everybody gets the best pricing. The cool piece is actually that also on the vendor side, this really speeds up the sales process. So if the vendor already knows, like, hey, this is kind of what I'm maximum willing to do, and Sastrify also knows that, so you get to a fair price much quicker.
Yeah.
And that's typically how we operate there.
Very, very interesting. And what's your take on the competition? How do you view the space?
So it's definitely an interesting space. I think it's still very nascent in a like overall setup, right? There's even if you look at a global scale, there's maybe a couple hundred companies using us or one of our competitors. But overall, it's definitely, with so much SaaS coming up over the last couple of years, there's definitely still a lot of room to grow. And most of the calls we still have are like, hey, this is something I haven't heard about. Tell me more. Sounds interesting. So it's really more about educating the market and explaining what we do rather than fighting competition.
And are you the first one to solve this problem?
Yeah, I think timing-wise, there have been a couple of companies that started around the same time. So I think there's 3 of us on a global scale, in like and then there's quite a bit of delay, and then there's a couple of smaller competitors, but there's really like three companies, including us, around the world.
And when did you start the company?
We started actually in 2020. So we sold our previous company in 2018. Stayed on board with them for about 2 years, and then early 2020, both of us were still eager to build and go back to build something from scratch. So that's basically when we started Sastrify.
What, you just took co-founders?
Yeah, it was the 2 of us. Max, my co-founder, is taking care of everything that's tech and product, and I'm more on the commercial side.
And how did you come up with the idea?
So it also came from, we had the same setup in our previous company. We had 2 more co-founders back then. And the cool thing was that obviously between Max on the technical side and me on the commercial side, we bought a lot of SaaS and discussed a lot about SaaS contracts and what we were paying for. So that we experienced it basically ourselves. And then we thought, when we started a new company, we were like, hey, this is something probably any company has like struggles with. So we basically took a lot of time figuring out, okay, how does that look like? Where's the friction in the process? And really make sure that we have basically one single platform that solves it all.
And how big is your team right now?
We're about, I think, as of tomorrow, we're going to be around 140, 145.
Wow.
So it's been quite a crazy 2 years. We'll probably end the year at around 160 plus minus.
And you raised some funds?
Yeah, we raised 3 rounds so far. The last one was our Series A back in January this year, or like December last year, January this year, with First Mark from New York. And yeah, by that we raised about a bit more than 20 million so far.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you think was your biggest challenge in these 2 short years?
So the biggest challenge is growth on both sides, I would say. So it's triggering that growth at the beginning. That has worked pretty well. And now the other part is really keeping up with the growth. I think that's pretty much the challenge we see right now, right? We're active in 6 regions in Europe plus the US, where we actively sell and have teams on the ground. But then also we have customers in LATAM, in Asia. So it's really keeping all of that in a somewhat meaningful setup. Is probably still the biggest challenge.
And what's your main vision? I don't know, seeing the future plans.
Yeah, so
or
for
Sastrify?
us, in the end, where we want to get with Sastrify is that anytime somebody thinks about SaaS in a company, they should think about Sastrify. That's basically like, hey, I need something, I need to know something about the subscription, I go to Sastrify. I think there should be a tool that helps me with this. I'll just look it up on Sastrify. That's really where we want to go from how embedded we are in a company. And then product-wise, we actually want to be a one-stop platform for everybody using SaaS, right? So in the end, from the moment you look up something, you buy it, you pay for it, you finance it, all of that on one single platform. That's pretty much where we're going. It's almost like shopping on Amazon, but for SaaS. That's pretty much the experience we want to create.
And I'd like to hear your backstory before Sastrify. You already said you had an exit, but let's go way before that.
So way before that.
Starting with your career. Or
Yeah, so so Max and I have known each other for about 13 years. We met actually at university, college roommates, and then more or less stumbled into our first startup, which was a payment operator for car parks called Evo Park. Quite cool story. Built that up over a couple of years. Raised some money from Porsche back then, which was I think the first startup investment they ever did.
wow.
Did a lot of more like technical things like in-car integrations to really build out a seamless parking process basically. So you could actually start and end the thing directly from your dashboard. And we got acquired back in 2018. And then after that, as it always is, we stayed on board like about 2 years more or less to integrate with the group. But then after 6 years in parking and 2 years with the like larger company, both of us were still like eager to build again, and that's what landed us here.
So your first startup was a success.
Yeah, it was overall I would say a success. Obviously, we made a lot of mistakes along the way, so we're now trying to make at least different mistakes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it was like overall, it was. I mean, when we started the company, we basically had like, hey, let's try this out for 2 or 3 months and see how far we can go. And then we ended up working for the company for like 6 years. So it's been quite a ride as well.
A lot of people told me that a business doesn't die, but the entrepreneur kills it because he gives up too soon. So again, you did a lot of mistakes, but you didn't give up. So in the end, you sold it. Very interesting story. What's your favorite software?
I'm very big on. So we overall we're quite reluctant on giving recommendations, obviously.
Okay.
Because we're very neutral. I think internally we use a lot of Asana to coordinate tasks. That's really where most of my daily work happens, at least.
Okay, that's cool. And one last question, maybe. Do you have any piece of advice for starting founders?
I think what has worked extremely well for us at Sastrify is 2 things. One is to try to sell what you do as early as possible to customers, and that has worked. Like we were fortunate enough to really have customers within the first couple of months that okay, I'm going to pay you for this because it's actually giving me like I get value from it. So if people don't want to pay you for something, then probably you're not creating enough value. So testing that as early as possible is really good. And then the other one was really hire top-down people. So even if they're more expensive, try to bring on the scrappy leaders first. They still want to get their hands dirty, but they also have the experience of what the company is going to look like if it grows. Because that also saves you a ton of time and struggle on the recruiting side. Okay.
Is there anything else that you want to tell us today?
No, I don't think so. Thanks so much for the time. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much for helping the SaaS community, and thanks for being a guest.
Thanks for having me.